see you guys in the dark.
There's been a few stalkers in my life, but this specific incident still shakes me to the core. For context, I'm turning 19 in a week. This was exactly 2 years ago. I was 17 years old. This was about a week before my 18th birthday. I was on my way home from school. I had my earbuds in. A man walking towards me started waving right at me, and I'm naturally confused, as I've never seen this man before. He starts talking to me and walking with me, as I regrettably let my guard down. When we reached my house, we said our goodbyes, and he kept on walking. Well, on my 18th birthday, he was waiting by the Turkey Hill. It's a gas station convenience store in my state, next to my house, which should have been a red flag, in all honesty. I went in the Turkey Hill and got what I went for, and started on my way home. There's an alleyway on the one side of my dad's apartment, and as I was passing by it, I felt hands slip through my choker. It was loose, as I had recently lost a lot of weight, and down my shirt, steering me down the alleyway. Now this man is easily 6'3" and possibly about 230 pounds of muscle. There was no way my 5'5", 120-pound self could have fought him, so I walked where he led me, hoping for an opportunity to just run. Luckily, we ran into some of his friends, and as soon as he released me and went to go talk to them, I ran faster than I ever had before. Even though I'm a fast runner, I could barely beat him back to my house. He had gotten my phone number and was calling me at least 15 to 20 times a day, leaving messages that I got even after I blocked his number. 3 days later, I moved in with my girlfriend at the time. He continued to call me for a month after that, saying shit like, "I don't know why you're ignoring me. Your dad said that you had moved. I'd like to see you sometime. Call me back." I talked to my dad about it, and he said that Uncle Mike, what the guy told me to call him, seemed obsessed and really unhinged, and that he had done some research, and that this guy had been in and out of prison for drug use and sexual assault. I could have had it much worse, but even typing this out has me shaking to my core. I will never forget what happened to me 3 days ago. I'm always a paranoid person because I keep hearing someone knocking on the window of my classroom. I jerked my head to the window, saw a man wearing all black. His clothes were torn and ragged. He had a creepy smile on his face. His teeth were yellow and rotted. I'll never remove that image from my mind. He began to not only appear at my school, but also appear outside of my bedroom window of my house. He would pull out a gun and a couple of knives. I choked in horror as I saw him pull out his weapons. I tried to get my family and friends and school teachers to see him, but he kept disappearing before they got to see him. One night I was laying in bed, ready to go to sleep, when I saw the man standing at the foot of my bed. I scrambled back to the headboard. "What do you want?" I asked, in a scared voice. He didn't say anything to me. He just kept on staring at me. That was when I was just about to scream for my mother. Then he walked out of my room and out of the side door. I soon found out that I was stalked by a crazy, dangerous homeless man. I'll never forget what happened to this very day. In the summer of 1985, in my childhood home in California, we only had a swamp cooler, and my room would often get hot, so I would sleep with my window open. That was right next to my bed. My neighbor's fence was right next to it, along with a dark side path. Back then, we never thought about people possibly breaking into our home, or even bothering us, even though it was not the best of neighbors. Anyways, it was after midnight. My mom was in the living room waiting for my dad to get home from the graveyard shift. She had all the blinds down, so she had no way of knowing that there was a guy coming down the side path. I happened to hear something. I was a light sleeper, and I looked over, saw a guy staring directly at me. I screamed. My mom had came in a few seconds later, freaked out. We called the police. They came, took the description, and the police officer showed us a sketch of a man. I recognized it as the same guy looking at me in my window. It was only a little bit later that my dad was talking to my mom about the Night Stalker. My dad worked for the local newspaper as a journeyman. They had put his picture in the newspaper. It was him. We did not talk about it much after then, because I was so freaked out about it. From then on, my mom had a fan in my room. They had put locks on my windows. I feel so very fortunate that nothing had happened. I had nightmares for many years after that. This story takes place when I was around 16 or 17 years old. I lived with my dad in a little apartment in a very questionable area. It was the type of area you'd not want to be out in and when the sun goes down. Up until a certain time, like 10 or 11 p.m., there would be a cop or two in the area patrolling, making sure that there was no gang-related activity going on. I had a job at a restaurant in the city, which was about a 30-minute car ride and an hour-and-a-half train ride. The train was a couple of blocks away from my house. Since my dad was always too lazy or hungover to drive me, that was my main form of transportation. I went to work around 3 p.m. and would usually get home around 12 or 1 a.m. This was my schedule 4 days a week, aside from having school. I would see a lot of familiar faces on the train because of this, but we never really made conversation with each other. Until one night, when I got out of work late because some asshole wanted to sit in the restaurant past closing. Thanks to them, I missed my train. The next one wasn't scheduled to arrive for another hour, so having nowhere to go and no money for Lyft or Uber, I sat there waiting. No one was around me, so when this older man showed up, kind of staggering a bit, I assumed that he was another drunken hobo in the city trying to catch a train to sleep in. Something about his face gave me deja vu, but I shrugged it off, thinking maybe I've just seen him on the train here before. He made his way over to me, much to my discomfort, and started up a conversation. He wasn't slurring, but the way he was looking down at me gave me goosebumps. He asked me why I was out there so late, all by myself. I had to reply as not to anger him. I mean, we were alone, and he was close enough to me to pull out a knife or something. Anyway, I told him that I was waiting for the train. He asked me which one. Now, the train was color-coded with a strip on the top to indicate whether it was going north, south, east, or west areas. I took blue, but I lied and said that I took green. He looked at the schedule above the benches and saw that the green train was coming in 15 minutes, so he said that he would keep me company. For those extremely long 15 minutes, he asked me how long I had been working at So-So restaurant. This made my blood run cold. I never told him where I worked, so I looked at him and very timidly answered, "For about a year." He laughed. He said, "Wow, it's already been a whole year, huh?" At this point, my skin was itching out of anxiety, and as soon as the green train came, I knew that I had no choice but to take it. I said goodbye to him and thanked him for the chat, hoping that would be the end of it. Nope, he suddenly told me that he took the green train too, so he followed me on and sat in a seat right behind me. My mind was racing about whether he was going to try and do something to me, like chloroform me or hurt me, in some way or other, but we rode the train in silence. I was trying to figure out how I was going to lose him. There weren't many people riding the train at that hour. Our car was empty, unfortunately. As the ride went on in a menacing silence, I could feel him staring down the back of my head. I waited until we got to a stop where there was another person, and I was so relieved to see a woman sitting there. She wasn't boarding, so I immediately got off the train, and the man followed me, as expected. I took a seat on the bench next to hers, close enough for her to see and hear everything going on, hoping that she would catch on. The man had noticed that I was sniffling, allergies, and being out in the cold, and asked if I was sick. I told him no, but he insisted on giving me these weird pills he had that were supposedly cold medicine. I declined in a louder voice. "Sorry, I don't accept pills from strangers." This prompted the lady to look at us, and I made eye contact with her. She knew now. Now this went on until a blue train came, and the lady got up, giving me a look that told me to get on with her. So without explanation, I did. She waved me over to sit next to her, and when the man tried to follow, she said, "No, you go sit over there." Made him sit a couple of seats across from us. He chose the one where he would face us, and stared at me the entire time. I was shaking and about to burst into tears. The woman leaned over and whispered to me that she had a pistol. I felt safer with her there. We whispered back and forth about what happened. I told her where I lived and how I was worried that he would follow me home. She told me a friend of hers would be boarding the train soon, and when he did, she told me that his name was Ray. Ray was filled in about everything and agreed to escort me home. She promised me that I could trust him. The two of them waited with me until I got to my stop. The man was still watching me, started to smile widely, resembling the Cheshire cat. He shouted, "This is your place, right?" To which I didn't respond, and just gave the woman a hug and thanked her. Ray and I hurriedly hopped off the train, and as I looked back, I saw that the woman had pulled out her pistol and told the man to sit back down, even blocking the exit with her body. I finally let myself cry in relief. Ray walked me home and tried to calm me down by telling me about his job and his family. After watching me get inside the gates of my apartment safely, I thanked him profusely for his help.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.